Welcome, everyone, to episode 96, 10 Things I Change About You, the Chris Parrish podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard. I have to say, first off, thank you to everyone. I did notice that we are having some issues on the Facebook, and I am fixing that as I go. It should be back up with a new link, so anybody who was attempting to watch on Facebook, just please check out the new link. That is right there. Make sure you're just checking out Chris Parrish on the athlete page. If you want to still call me an athlete. And then, yes, you can go ahead and go under events, go into more, go into events, and then it will be right there. So please go and check that out. For anybody else, thank you so much for joining me. We are going to have a fun little show today. I'm going to review my experience at TNA this past weekend. That's right, Victory Road, as well as the TV tapings that happened yesterday. Victory Road was on Friday. We're going to talk a little No Mercy as well. If you had a chance to see No Mercy, a little bit of a big surprise last night. I will have a joke at my own expense later. But first things first, everybody, if you are loving what you see, please go check out all the beautiful people that are here and are making this happen. That is right. You get to see Turnbuckle Studios, Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, and beercadewhyte, all official and proud sponsors of the Chris Parrish podcast. So please, if you have any want to go and check out a pro wrestling PLE or pay-per-view, please go check out beercadewhyte, located in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, at 105-482nd Ave, and you can go and check that out. Follow them on all their socials for more, and obviously if you want to go to turnbucklestudios.org, that is the official homepage to everything Turnbuckle Studios. So I'm gonna just give a quick little update on the Facebook. So I'm just gonna play a couple videos for you guys right away, just so I can get my ducks in a row.
A Turnbuckle Affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, video games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today, because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at carlcarafel.redbubble.com.
Awesome stuff. I appreciate the patience, everybody. Just wanted to make sure I got all things on the Facebook side complete. It is all up and ready to go. So I thank you, everyone, for your patience. And once again, those links are turnbucklestudios.org. That is the homepage. And if you want to answer that help wanted ad, go to turnbucklestudios.org/join. And obviously for the Redbubble, go to carlcarafel.redbubble.com. That is the online merchandise that is available for everyone. If you want to get anything Turnbuckle Studios or Chris Parrish related, you can go to carlcarafel.redbubble.com. And of course, if you want to support me, my link tree is just down there. We'll get all to that later. But let's have the fun stuff everybody wants to know. what was my TNA experience like? Well, we got to see Victory Road on a Friday, and it was fantastic. I will say this, my heart pours to Ash by Elegance, who had to relinquish the TNA Knockouts Championship. I've been very critical on Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance. Not one of my personal favorite wrestlers. However, I will be the first one to admit her going to TNA has changed my perception and what she can do in the ring. Now, I never want to see anybody have to leave pro wrestling. I never ever want to see anybody have to make an announcement where they have to step back in any way that isn't by their own choice. So my heart goes to Ash by Elegance, and I really hope everything is okay. And one day she has an opportunity to do for TNA, for the Knockouts title, what she wanted more time. Want to give a shout out to CBRS Entertainment coming in, and howdy, Mr. Parrish. I'm here watching NXT. I already know the results. I'm watching how they play out. Perfect. One of the takeaways I had from Victory Road and just TNA in general might be the most interactive wrestling show I've ever been to, in the sense of just the experience was so fan friendly. Now, this doesn't mean that they were giving stuff away or anything like that, but everything was just easy to access. You had a lot of personnel, there helping you and trying to get you more involved into what TNA is, and I love that. It seems like there's a genuine care for the fan base that is just different than an AEW or WWE experience, and I think that is something that truly separates TNA in my books. And anytime they come to Edmonton, I will be there, because I don't think I will ever miss a TNA show live anymore. And if you have an opportunity to go check out TNA live, I highly suggest to do so, because it is one of the best experiences I had, and it was some of the most fun. And I'll be the first one to admit, sometimes going to wrestling shows for me in the last little while weren't always fun. It was just something else that I needed to do. This was the first time I just truly had a fun experience all around, and I just want to give TNA a huge shout out for that. Also, I want to give a shout out to Jason Hodge, who is part of a tag team with John Schuyler. I absolutely love watching Jason Hodge in the ring now. He is so fluid. He is so crisp. He reminds me a lot of guys like Adam Cole, guys who don't necessarily have the build like a Moose, like an Obafemi. They're not even jacked like a Mike Santana, which, oh my God. In person, he is just huge. But everything he does in the ring just was so fun to watch. His character was amazing. I really enjoy watching him. And it was somebody who, just as a fan, my eyes were just attracted to watching his performance, and somebody that I will be watching TNA for moving forward. He might just be one of my favorite TNA wrestlers. Also, if you guys want to know where I sat, I did sit on the floor. I did have seats on the floor. We were kind of in the corner. If you were watching from where the TV is, I would have been on the top left corner, kind of in there, kind of off to the side, but it was absolutely amazing. That venue, I had friends who sat sporadically all over the place. I can tell you flat out, I saw a match from the top row and I saw a match down at kind of floor level. There's not a bad seat at the Edmonton Expo Center, and I was absolutely just blown away. You got a completely different experience. One, you got to see and just everything. So visually, it was very appealing, but having everything close and right up right up in your face was also just a different experience. And I can tell you that either one you would have been happy with. Very much worth a mission, which, by the way, I did not find that TNA tickets were insane. A lot of people are criticizing WWE for their high ticket prices. That might be. We live in a different world where money is just very hard to come by at times. But the price for admission, I thought for TNA was very affordable. And I thought you got a lot more value with your experience, regardless of where you sat. And I thought that was very important. So yeah, I do not want to give away anything that happened on the TV tapings, obviously, because those happen later and will be aired later. So I won't get too much into detail on the TV tapings, but I will give you guys a rundown of Victory Road. We did see in a preliminary match, Zachary Wentz defeat Trey Miguel and Cedric Alexander. That match was fun to watch. It is crazy to see the athleticism all three men have. And I will say this is the first time I got to see all three men live. Cedric Alexander might just be the best kept secret right now. Next up, we had the System of Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC defeat Order 4 of Agent Zero, Jason Hotch, and John Schuyler. Again, I really like watching Order 4, even Jason Hotch. But I will also tell you, Brian Myers, so good. Everything he does is so good. Chris Best coming in saying definitely have to check out TNA the next time they're in Ontario. 100%. Brian Myers it's weird. I never thought I would become a fan of Brian Myers the way I am. I always liked him. There was anything I didn't like about his time in WWE, especially when you go to the whole losing streak thing where he eventually won the tag titles with his best friend, now known as Matt Cardona. Outside, obvious real name, but just a completely different thing now. And him being more of, now I know there's no leaders in the system, but he definitely acts more of a leader. And I think that is just something different. But also from an in-work thing, if anybody is an inspiring young wrestler and you want to take somebody to mimic, watch Brian Myers, because there's nothing he does wrong. And everything he does has a reason behind it. He doesn't have wasted movement. He is just very intelligent when it comes to pro wrestling. And I'm a big fan of Brian Myers. And the System did get the win over Order 4, which I thought was fun. Obviously, if you watch TNA, Order 4 in the System, they have that hardcore war that's going to happen at Bound for Glory. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Then we had that Ash by Elegance announcement where she did have to, forfeit the Knockouts Championship. And I just thought that was very sad of a moment and definitely something that was, bringing everyone down. And then you had Santino Morel come out and inform the audience that the Knockouts tag title match that would have saw the Inspiration versus the Elegance brand was no longer going to take place at Victory Road. And I can tell you the place got upset. But what he did now, and I think I give TNA a lot of credit for this, they're aware of the scenario and they're very aware of what that kind of announcement would do. So they ended up having a battle royal to determine the new Knockouts champion that they were going to crown at Victory Road. And that brought everyone back up. And they did the battle royal next. And eventually Yi Lang Lee and Kalani Jordan were the final two. And what happened in this is the final two participants would then later have a singles match later in the night to determine the Knockouts champion. And this was definitely interesting, especially with the NXT, the invasion with TNA. it was very intriguing to see somebody in NXT in this battle royal, let alone be a finalist. So yeah, very intrigued by that. I mean, I'm biased. I was hoping for Jody Threat, not gonna lie. But then next up we had Matt Cardona and the Hometown Man, who, man, is anybody from more areas than the Hometown Man? Just saying. As they defeated the Nemeth brothers, which I thought was a great match. It never gets boring watching Matt Cardona and Nick Nemeth in the ring, but it was also really cool seeing Ryan Nemeth live. I thought he has been just stepping up his game a lot since coming over to TNA, and just the tag team and the pairing with him and his brother has just been fantastic. And then next up, we had Ridge Holland versus Mike Santana, and Mike Santana knows how to build a crowd. I said this, I believe he is TNA's Jey Uso. He has the natural storyline going. He is the heart and soul of TNA right now. He is their guy. He has taken over that in TNA from Joe Hendry. I strongly think that. But also he represents hope. And in this kind of day and age where you have that invasion angle kind of looming, you also have Trick Williams, an NXT superstar, as your champion. You want somebody to bring the title back home. Mike Santana just feels like that, and you want him. He just represents all the purity that is TNA right now. And yeah, if he is not the heartbeat of TNA, I don't know who is. And he defeats Ridge Holland, and I thought this match was fantastic. Up until this point, I was giving that my match of the night, and that was almost. I'm like, I'd be hard pressed for that. I thought Ridge Holland was fantastic. Ridge Holland, Mike Santana, they just work, and I was very much happy to watch that. Not the first time I've seen Ridge Holland. Actually, not even the first time I saw Mike Santana live, as he has been kind of around the Alberta scene for a while. But an absolute fantastic match. It is really cool to see the growth of Mike Santana right now. And then next up, we had Mustafa Ali defeating Moose. And the reason why this match was important was because the winner got the advantage in the Hardcore War at Bound for Glory. So Mustafa Ali gets the win. Yes, I think it was Tasha Steeles ended up low blowing Moose when the referee was distracted, and he picked up the victory there. So it was just a great match. Got all the right reactions. Moose is just so good, and there's nothing more I can say about Mustafa Ali. This guy is just. One day I want to see Mustafa Ali versus Mike Santana for the TNA title. That is my dream main event for TNA moving forward. I really think they're positioning Ali very well as a top heel, and obviously Santana as that top face. But yeah, so Order 4 now has the advantage for Hardcore War over the System, who, by the way, I have to just say is best entrance video. Whoever's idea was to put the championship rings to identify all the members, absolutely chef's kiss. I love it. Their song gave me a lot of Bullet Club's vibes just with the voice. But everything about the System's video, music, fantastic. Next up, we had, and if you say his name, Joe Hendry defeating Eric Young, and they had this little angle going on that Joe Hendry got roughed up before the show, and they didn't know if he was going to compete. They had the injury update like they always do on their shows, and they had Joe Hendry questionable, kind of like if you play fantasy football, the most annoying tag on a player is questionable. But we all know it's wrestling. He'll be there. And he was, and he defeated Eric Young in a fantastic match. I'm still giving the nod to Santana and Holland so far, but this is where I got really tested with that thought, because Matt Hardy fought AJ Francis in a tables match, and this match was set up prior with first class penthouse kind of segment that happened. I believe it was on the Countdown show where we saw AJ Francis put Matt Hardy through a table. And then this sets up a tables match. We all know that at Bound for Glory, Team 3D, Hardys, will face off for the tag titles in a tables match. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So a little bit of foreshadowing here with the tables. And let's face it, wrestling fans and tables are just, a combination that works. You will always please a wrestling fan when you look under the ring and you pull out that table. And Matt Hardy picks up the win. And what I loved about it, the match was simple. AJ Francis is a heat magnet. I will say that. He knows how to get people to hate him. He's very good at that. Matt Hardy goes up to the top rope, hits a leg drop out of the ring on AJ Francis. It was fantastic. We just wanted to make sure he didn't die. I think that was very safe. Matt Hardy goes up and he goes down, like straight down. It is nothing short of just black and white. It is exactly that. There's no ooh and ah about how he does things. It is very simple, but it is also very awesome that he still takes these risks, still does that, obviously because he loves it, and B, he wants to do it for all the people around. It's fantastic. Never thought that in 2025, I'm still watching a Matt Hardy match live, and he still doesn't disappoint. Absolutely fantastic. Then next up, we had the Knockouts title match between Lonnie Jordan and Li Yingli. I'm still wanting to call you Zali. I am sorry. But yeah. Anyway, Li Yingli, fantastic. Everything about her in the ring you want to watch. She is great, and it is just absolutely fun to watch her perform because A, fantastic performer, but B, still does everything that you want to see and then just does it and makes you feel. And I think that is so important. She just makes you feel when you watch, and I think that is just such a great thing to have. But Kalani Jordan picks up the win here, and I thought that was very surprising. Now, Kalani Jordan doesn't act like she is a bigger deal because she's coming from NXT. It seems very sincere that she's coming there because it was an opportunity. And because that was her opportunity to become a champion, and she did. And I don't get a lot of, like combative vibes when she's going to TNA. I get more of, I want to prove that I belong here. And I found that very strange, but also in the invasion angle, you kind of had similar things as well. So, and that is back from the early 2000s. So it's going to be very intriguing to see Kalani Jordan as the weeks come up, as the Knockouts champion, but being an NXT superstar. Indy Hartwell was the special referee to this match, and I found it very odd that she wasn't a part of the Battle Royal, because we all know that she was the assigned official for Masha Slamovich and Ash by Elegance, which is very ironic. We didn't get either one. So to me, it was very intriguing that she wasn't part of the Battle Royal. She was still, set in that position to be the guest referee. She does have that title shot at Bound for Glory, but I just thought maybe that would, bring her in. And I really thought when Santino said there was going to be a Battle Royal, I was convinced I was going to see Indy Hartwell with that Knockouts title at the end of the day, and I was pleasantly surprised. But congratulations to Kalani Jordan. That was a great match. Just took me by surprise, to be quite honest. And then next up, we had Frankie Kazarian defeating Steve Macklin. But before that, Chris Best coming in saying, Indy honestly did not look happy that she had to raise Kalani's hand in victory. Yeah. Before we get to that Frankie Kazarian Steve Macklin international title match, just one last thing. Yeah, like you're right. Like Indy Hartwell was somebody that was NXT and then was let go, went to TNA to kind of reestablish herself. And then she's raising the hand of somebody who has a position in NXT, won championships in NXT, and then came over to TNA and is now the champion. And it was almost like I worked my tail off to get here, and you're just using a loophole to get here. So I think there's a little bit of maybe jealousy or whatever that emotion is. I think that's what Indy Hartwell feels right now. Single fact that their roads were different roads that brought them to TNA and the knockout title picture. So, yeah, hopefully they lean into that in the next few weeks and the lead up going to Bound for Glory, because it's going to be a sneaky good match there. But yeah, back to the international title match, Frankie Kazarian versus Steve Macklin. And I can tell you, Steve Macklin is a dog. That guy goes. And I love watching. He absolutely goes from 0 to 60 real quick. Why? Because he just goes. And I really, really like that. And I just want to say, Steve Macklin, as a first and inaugural international champion, great job. Great job. However, as Bubba mentioned on Brace for Impact, and as I mentioned last week, I thought it was time to kind of give a fresh start for that international title, and Frankie Kazarian represents that so well. I talked about how much heat AJ Francis can get, but the heat Frankie Kazarian can also get is second to none. He might just be one of the best unsung performers in TNA. And when he comes down to it in the ring, he also competes. He's almost a standard within that company when it comes to in-ring competition. There is not a lot of people move by moves better than Frankie Kazarian. Everything he does counts. Everything he does makes you react. Everything he does, you make sure you watch. And that was very cool to see from Frankie Kazarian. And Frankie Kazarian did pick up the win, does become the new international champion. And I thought that was a great match. I'm actually going to give Frankie Kazarian and Steve Macklin the match of the night. But that wasn't it. We did have one last match for the X Division title in the main event. Leon Slater defeats Myron Reed and I thought this was fantastic. I thought they did a great job. Leon Slater, 21 years of age now. It was his 21st birthday yesterday, so I thought that was cool. And they even shouted that out during the TV taping, so that was really cool. But yeah, he is a phenomenal athlete, and it's just, people say sky's the limit, but he already jumped so high that I feel he's already touched clouds. So I don't know what his limit is, and it's a good thing he's in the X Division, because no limits is kind of the tagline. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, he won, and then we got a nice little surprise video that explained who his Bound for Glory opponent was, and it was NXT owned Javion Evans. So it was very cool to see kind of that dream match, because I think a lot of people want to see those two just kind of pop off. And at Bound for Glory, you're going to do that. And I'm telling you, if I can watch Bound for Glory, I'm not going to miss it. That card is going to be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so that was Victory Road in a nutshell. So yeah, and I'm going to let you know in a nutshell what our weekly calendar is as I play that. And then we're going to talk a little bit No Mercy. And then I'm going to say 10 things I change about you, WWE. That's what we're all here for. So check out this.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m. Eastern, followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thursday we go TNA when we brace for Impact at 7:55 p.m. Eastern. Friday we secure all details as we answer the call for the SmackDown security detail at 8 p.m. Eastern. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. Eastern, followed by the Boar's Nest at 8 p.m. Eastern. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day.
And once again, if you want to catch all those shows, make sure you're going in at turnbucklestudios.org, because if by chance you miss any of the live shows, you can always click back to turnbucklestudios.org, because they will direct you to a link where you can watch the latest episodic shows that you just saw, including the PLE Patrol that is not on that calendar because it's not weekly. No, it's as simple as that. But yeah, just going to get to No Mercy before we get to the main event of what I would pick as the 10 things I would change about the WWE. Quick up, we had Javion Evans defeat Josh Briggs. Very curious to see if that continues, or if it's just definitive and we get more build to Evans versus Slater at Bound for Glory. So that's going to be very interesting. Got word that Sol Ruka's opponent, Lania Reed, was not available to compete. So they had Jada Parker step in to face Sol Ruka for the Speed Championship. And this match was fun to watch. Jada Parker definitely on the rise in NXT. And we all know that Sol Ruka is one of the most athletic females on that roster. So that was a great match. We did have some shenanigans with Azaria and Lash Legend before this match, but Sol Ruka retained her championship and is still a double champion with the Women's North American and the Speed Championship. Chris Best coming and saying Javion Evans has a hell of a weekend. Yeah, and it was really cool just to kind of see him on the screen, but he obviously wasn't at Victor Road. It was just a video, so that was there. Next up, we had a weaponized cage match, and Blake Monroe went up against Jordan Grace, and this match was brutal. These girls absolutely beat this, not out of each other, and it was fun to watch. I might actually go watch it again, to be quite honest, because it was just a fun match. And what I really loved is I think this gives Jordan Grace that match that she really needed in NXT to really stamp her place and her mark and show you what she was capable of. We all know how good she is. We all know what she did in TNA. But I just feel like she hadn't gotten to that place yet in NXT. And I think that was something that she just needed, that breakout performance. And I really think this was that. Not that she had bad matches before. I just felt that there wasn't. Yeah, she comes in NXT and you almost want to put the title right on her right away. And it's just that, hype and everything that comes with it. And Blake Monroe had some similar, but not to the extreme of Jordan Grace. But I thought putting them together, having this match, absolutely fantastic. Using Blake Monroe to kind of turn on Jordan Grace, only to kind of create this feud, has been really fun to watch and develop. And I really think both women really stood to benefit from this. And they brought the best out of each other in this cage match. And I think it's safe to say Jordan Grace going up to that NXT championship now is that next picture. And I do believe that we are seeing the rise of Jordan Grace in NXT now. Next up, Ethan Page defeats Tavion Heights for that North American Championship, and I thought this was great. I loved it. I did not want to see Ethan Page lose a championship. I really wanted to kind of keep Ethan Page as the North American champion. So very happy that he got the win here. Nothing negative about Tavion Heights. It's just I really like seeing Ethan Page right now. And I'm now very intrigued to see kind of what that next thing is for both men. So yeah, very, very intrigued with this one. Then we had JC Jane defeat Lola Vice for the NXT Women's Championship. And this is interesting because it wasn't Fallon Henley who helped JC Jane. We all know that Jasmine Nix no longer with the WWE. She chose not to re-sign with WWE. So there was I'm going to assume a woman wearing a black sweater, pants, mask. Couldn't see the identity, but definitely helped JC Jane and scored that victory for JC Jane. And JC Jane still your NXT Women's Champion, but I think the story is who is that mystery person that helped JC Jane retain that title? And you have to wonder, is this the new member of Fatal Influence? And then on their main event, we had Obafemi defend against Ricky Saints. And you want to hear a joke? Yeah. This might be Saints' only win this year. Yeah, that's right. I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. I'm well aware that 0-3. Going to be an 0-4 after tonight. We're not beating Buffalo today. Ricky Saints, though, he almost looked like the odds were stacked up against him, like my boys are against the Bills. But this time, the Bill he had to overcome is just the most dominating NXT champion that we've seen in a very long time. And I will even say Obafemi was more of a dominant champion than Braun Breaker was. Obafemi was absolutely unstoppable, and a lot of people were questioning the way this match ended. And I will say this. Yes, we've seen more people attempt more. But the one thing Ricky Saints, I don't think this part of this match got enough credit. Ricky Saints got beat up in this match. But he kept going. And sometimes you try to finish a match off. You put all your energy, all your everything into the attempt, to where sometimes the slightest thing can just put you down momentarily. Also, you have to think the weight of carrying the title for as long as Obafemi had, all the battles, sometimes it just catches up to you. Now, I do believe that there's going to be a rematch, and I do think there should be one. But with the announcement Ava Rain made about a Survivor Series match that's going to pit NXT versus TNA, it's not at Survivor Series, I don't think. I think that it's at October 7th, the Invasion, that they're bringing back. That if everybody loved the Invasion in the early 2000s, you'll, I think, love this one. Best as I'm at the title match now, and Saints is definitely showing his perseverance in this one. Yeah. And that's just it. He's the underdog for a reason. And you have to wonder too, just, with the weight that Obafemi carried, that took a toll on him. We all know that Obafemi puts everything into the moves and everything he has. He goes for it all the time. Sometimes it's just going to bite you in the ass, and eventually does. That's how I viewed this match. And yeah, Ricky Saints persevered, became your new NXT champion. But my point is, if they're doing this tag match, and there's going to be one for the men and one for the women, you'd have to think Obafemi is going to be needed for that match. So I think that's it. Because when you look at who can represent TNA here, well, you got Steve Macklin, you got Mike Santana, you can have Eddie Edwards, Matt Cardona, Moose, who's who, some big boys, right? So you need to have that size on NXT as well, and I think Obafemi definitely represents that. So I think that is another benefit for NXT, with NXT title changing hands. you probably get Obafemi on that team, and he can give Team NXT a chance in that match. So all in all, that was No Mercy. We're gonna have a lot of fun watching NXT on Tuesday, so can't wait. Make sure you guys check that out. So yeah, and then I'm just going to showcase the Redbubble and the Help Wanted ad one more time, and then we will get to the main event, the 10 things I'd change about you, WWE.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at carlcarafel.redbubble.com.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, videos games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
And once again, those websites are turnbucklestudios.org, O-R-G. You can go to turnbucklestudios.org for anything Turnbuckle Studios and Turnbuckle Affiliation Program related, and carlcarafel.redbubble.com. That is the official online merchandise store for Turnbuckle Studios. And if, by the way, anybody just wants to ask, why is it Carl Carafel and not Turnbuckle Studios on the name? Because that was what was available. And we all know that Carl Carafel is the godfather of Turnbuckle Studios. It would not be around if he didn't have the brainchild to create it. So that is why. Just to give everybody a little history on that. And yeah, sure. Little things, well aware. But I'm sure people were wondering. But 10 things I change about you, WWE. Here it is. Number 10. I am going to say we need to kind of hit a little bit of a throwback. And that was, remember when Money in the Bank was just a match at WrestleMania? And then it became this match that everybody loved, and it became its own standalone PLE. Now, over time, you kind of had your perception of what you thought about the standalone PLE. But I think we can honestly say that the PLE is really all about the two ladder matches that we get. The men's and the women's. Personally, I would love a tag team Money in the Bank, but I digress. I'm going to take that standalone PLE away. Why? Because I believe that SummerSlam, now that it is a 2-night event, is better suited to have Money in the Bank. Now, I'm not taking it back to WrestleMania because with WrestleMania, you get so much more. And there's something about tag team ladder matches that I like at WrestleMania, even though I'm well aware SummerSlam kind of started it all. But making Money in the Bank a SummerSlam match now just gives you that extra thing about SummerSlam just to make it special. You know, you can always look forward to it. Not to mention now all of a sudden this year to cash in this briefcase can go all through that holiday season, all through that Royal Rumble, WrestleMania season. And then it gives you that added like flex kind of back when you get into the heart of that summer, right? So I think that is something that I would kind of like to see. It gives you those options, and who doesn't like a good option when it comes down to pro wrestling? And I like the Money in the Bank ladder match idea. I think it's fantastic. But how about we change the timeline of this, and instead of being in the middle of the year, we kind of take it to the end of the summer. We take it down a little bit. So, as we kind of get into the most fun year of WWE, which is that January to April time, we have everything in question because now whoever holds this money in the bank briefcase is just lingering around saying, okay, I see you, but it might be short lived. Oh, you want to have this big moment at WrestleMania? Well, I'm going to mess it up for you. Or maybe, just maybe, that's how you catapult somebody else into having that big WrestleMania moment. We all remember Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania. We all know that Dolph Ziggler did it the night after WrestleMania. So that timeline to have it still is there. But now it's just, amplified. Or you could have somebody wait and go all the way down, and we might just see it later on. But I would move the Money in the Bank ladder match all the way to SummerSlam. Now, you would say, well, what would I do then with the PLEs? Well, that's easy. I think you need to simplify what you consider major PLEs and other PLEs. So that's why I say WWE, find 6 PLEs that you consider major. We all know Royal Rumble's one. We all know WrestleMania's one. Survivor Series, SummerSlam. Those are your big 4. I say if you're making Elimination Chamber in all these amazing places now, you're almost setting it up for, Elimination Chamber being one. Or a Clash, whatever it's Clash or whatever, that could be one. WrestlePalooza, if that's going to be a yearly thing, that also could be one. But find 6 that you consider major. You can do 2 nights on those, or you can do something bigger on all those. That's going to be for everyone. You can, if it's one night, make it a 4-hour show instead of 3, just to make it feel that it's bigger. The reason is there's going to be 6 other months. You can have 6 not so major ones, but you can take those and you can focus in on everything else. We know on the TV show, we see some weeks are more setting up for your world title pictures, or it's setting up more for your world, or like your the world championship on the women's side. Like, we're getting those titles, like the major titles, but sometimes the secondary titles get overlooked and a little bit, left behind. That's what I would use these other 6 for. Help to kind of put more emphasis on your intercontinentals, your United States, your tag team titles, and treat them more like a main event going into these PLEs. That way, when the bigger ones do come in, now the perception on all these other championships just rise. Why? Because you've had these other shows to help boost them up. And it'd be a little bit better to kind of then represent all your championships as important when you do get to the big shows. And I think sometimes just a reset on how you kind of look into that would do some good. So I would actually take 6 major PLEs and 6 minor ones. Numbers 8 here. I need the custom sets for Raw and SmackDown once again. Remember right before the pandemic started, we had that kind of cool one for SmackDown. I mean, if you wanted to see, I remember that's where Bailey / the Bailey Buddies. That was short-lived, obviously, because with the pandemic, they simplified it huge because everything came out of one venue from now on. So they just took all that stuff out. And now that everything's back, we kind of have a very boring stage, I'm going to say. There's nothing unique about it. We remember the Raw is War days with all the metal kind of there, whether it's the steps, the big kind of like everything that the screen, everything was different about it. And then even like the old school Raw had like the Raw entrance. And we all remember the video where you see Shawn Michaels dancing on top. You had the video game for Sega, and it had all like those kind of like graphics with it. It just made it at least unique. I don't feel there's anything unique about the Raw and SmackDown sets right now. And at the very least, it adds to the identity of the show. And that's something that I think has been lost. And I would like to recuperate that. So updated sets. That's something that I would definitely do. So yeah, I think that would be number 8. Number 7. I think I'm going to just have a creative. I would focus my Royal Rumble winners with CM Punk and Liv Morgan. The reason being, I think we can all admit that the Seth Rollins CM Punk story has been amazing as of late. But the one thing I think we all get tired of as fans is repetition. Now, I believe that by the time we get to the Royal Rumble, you might be a little bored of Seth Rollins and CM Punk. That is why, if CM Punk was to win a Royal Rumble, he could use that to challenge the other championship instead of going after Seth Rollins. Because you can almost complete that by Royal Rumble, and then you can still have that pick-me-up with CM Punk as doing something special. Because I do think you need to have at least one story revolving CM Punk going into a championship match at WrestleMania. Now, it was a technicality in my eyes of his quote-unquote main event in that triple threat on night 1. But to have a true story with CM Punk closing out WrestleMania on night 2 and seeing if he could defeat whoever holds the Undisputed Championship, now I think that's amazing. For Liv Morgan, I think it's a great way to really propel her right back into where I thought she left off, and that was just on top. We all know she was like really becoming one of the next best female wrestlers, but with time away, you almost forget some of that, right? You almost take it for granted at the time, and then you do miss Liv Morgan, and then we all know that Judgment Day needs just that little something else. Rhea Ripley brought that star power to the Judgment Day that really made it bigger, and I think Liv Morgan was slowly doing the same thing, and because of that, I think it could be a lot of fun. Plus, I think we all want a little bit more information about Liv Morgan, Roxanne Perez. Is that going to be a feud, a team? What is that going to be moving forward? And I think that'd be a lot of fun, especially if Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez have something beforehand. So I think that's really cool. So that was number 7. Number 6, I'm going to just say scrap the speed titles. I understand the concept. I like the concept, but now it's no longer that concept. The concept were quick matches on X every Wednesday. That is no longer. So I will say this, scrap them. You have the North American Championship that I feel gets looked over now because you have that speed title. A lot of, like we just saw it last night. Which title that Sol Ruca defended? It wasn't the speed title. Or sorry, it wasn't the North American title. It was the speed title. And you had this big tournament won by someone, but then that person couldn't compete. What I thought they should have done, to be quite honest, I thought you could have had a North American Open Challenge. And that's when Jada Parker could have came. You could have had a North American Championship match instead of a speed title match. And there, that way it just gives, the winner of the tournament that you just used to build, and Laney Reed, she still has that next opportunity for the speed title. I think that's just a little change I would have made there. But I also find that the speed title just, almost gets in the way, and it's a little much. So that is something I would do. So that is number 2. I believe that was number 6. I believe, yeah. So, Next up, Trick Mello needs to reunite on SmackDown. The reason why I say this is obviously after Bound for Glory, I do not see Trick Williams with that TNA title anymore. Obviously, I do think he's at a point now where he doesn't need to go back to NXT and do anything more there. He's ready to be his act. Carmelo Hayes needs to break away from The Miz at some point, and what better way for Carmelo Hayes to do that, and that is to go back to somebody who he knows he can count on, and you can relive the friendship and relive that relationship with Trick Williams. And when everybody understood, now they see both of them as individual stars, I would not only have Trick Mello return, but I would connect them with the Street Profits and form a new group. Yeah, you could have BFAB. You can even bring in Bianca Belair as your female, or even make that your team. I have BFAB kind of be Trick Mello's girl and have Bianca be Street Profits girl. I'd be okay with that. But then it's one of those things where I think I would use this as just a different group. You kind of take what, Metaphor kind of in a weird way was supposed to be. You kind of take what the New Day as a heel group can be, but you also mix that together and kind of have more of that street type group. We have the Street Profits. We have Trick Mello, who always said they came from the kind of the streets or whatever. They ran the streets. They did that. So put them together, let them create the magic. And I think it just gives you a completely different vibe. And then you can, get away from obviously anything Bloodline, anything Judgment Day, and then you could take that time to introduce new groups. So I would have Trick Mello and the Street Profits as a new group. And I'm going to make the next one also a new group because we're seeing this somewhat already, and that is Los Americanos. We all know that, there are 3 quote unquote El Grande Americanos. So what if they ended up being Ludwig Kaiser, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate? This is all what we're assuming the 3 El Grande Americanos are. Over time, I would love to see these 3 unmask themselves, form this kind of new group. We can always look at it as Kyler's form of Imperium, but Gunther has kind of told Kaiser to kind of go out and do his own thing, become his own man. And then now he's almost the second coming of Gunther almost. Now, I'm not saying copy Imperium, but I'm saying do somewhere like that. You can be a good little mix of a different thing. But yeah. The one caveat I would have, I would bring in Ilya Dragunov as kind of the enforcer. Obviously, you have Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate as kind of like your main guys, or for like your tag team. And I wouldn't even touch that. I would keep them as that tag team option. But then I would use Dragunov as kind of that mid-card, Kaiser kind of going up into that, maybe title picture, but also then you always want to have 2 singles acts that almost kind of clunk at the end. Everyone had that. Evolution had that. NWO had that. DX had that. Don't you remember when Triple H and X-Pac had that rivalry? Obviously, Randy Orton, Triple H. Batista, Triple H. We had Finn Balor, Damian Priest. We had, Edge and everyone else. Like, in all groups, you almost have power control in some point, and eventually that does have to happen. And I think we would all love to see Dragunov Kaiser in some way, but just imagine what they could do as a group. Dragunov, Ludwig Kaiser, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate. Yeah. And then I would have that as kind of something you can do as well. This is the next one because obviously we were talking all year, and I say we, a lot of people in Turnbuckle Studios, talking about a potential draft that could happen. Was it going to be after SummerSlam? Was it going to be in the latter part of 2025? No, we don't have. I don't think there is a draft in 2025. But this is what I would do every 2 years. And the reason why I go every 2 years is a wrestling season can feel long. It can also go by real quick, but 2 years I think is great. Every 2 years, you have a draft. And yes, you can go Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whatever your third brand is. I might get to that later. You have a snake-like draft. Don't know what a snake draft is. You're obviously not fantasy football. But it's basically if you draft first round 1, you draft last round 2, and you draft first round 3, so on and so forth. So it just goes up and down on the order. And then every 2 years, if you have any movement or whatever, you can have trades, announce the movement between talent from one show to another one, loan talent to one show for, the loan of somebody else. Have that. Like, really emphasize this on your socials, on your website. Now that WWE and ESPN work together, ESPN can help you with like making this feel more like a sport, because in all sports you can trade players, you can sign players. All this happens, and you can do this in all the video games, and I think it would be a fun little thing to do all across the board. But the emphasis needs to be made about talent movement. And if you don't announce that and it's just like a random thing, it goes to the wasteland. But a structure, I believe, needs to be there with drafts, with movement, all that stuff. And this is kind of how I would settle that. Also, the reason why I pick every 2 years is because in my mind it was like, well, why is the Olympics so special? That's because it doesn't happen all the time. It happens every 4 years. And I think every 2 years in wrestling is the equivalent of 4 years in real life. So, yeah, I do a draft every 2 years. And then, yeah, just keep that going. And it'll be fun. Now, if you want to ask, oh, what do I do with the champions? Well, you can you can do whatever you want. To me, I think champions could be considered untouchable, but also you could also do what the NHL does in a expansion draft and have your protected list, and each brand gets five talent that they get to protect. Then everybody else is part of this draft. And if you're a smart brand, you'd probably choose your champions. Just saying. That makes sense, right? You have 2 world champions, 2 mid cards, and a tag team. Down. Yes, I would. This is one that kind of, I feel, is going to be more realistic, but we have an invasion angle between TNA and NXT. I think a lot of people, when they first heard about the working relationship between WWE and TNA, assumed it was much like the WWF ECW. We were going to see a lot of financial support and see how kind of that works out. I think a lot of people kind of thought, oh, is WWE just going to buy TNA? Personally, I think eventually they probably will. But what if TNA and NXT do an invasion angle and the winner officially becomes the third brand? We all know that there's this rivalry with fans and perhaps with the companies, WWE and AEW. The perception is WWE wants to help TNA squander AEW. Leave that be. Well, whatever. It is what it is. Could be a thing, could not be a thing. I don't know. But what if you take that idea and that narrative that you see all over social media and you make it into an actual storyline, but it's with TNA and NXT. And this is kind of maybe WWE tries to use NXT to consume TNA, but then TNA fights back and they eventually win. And your 3 brands in WWE are now Raw, SmackDown, and TNA. And you're like, well, what do you do with NXT? Well, a lot of people deem NXT as your developmental. So why not flat out bring that and keep that as your developmental? That's right. You can do the LFG series within the NXT realm. You could have you can almost do NXT and Evolve, and that could be a thing. And then now all of a sudden NXT is getting a little bit of a completely different perception and a makeshift thing, but that's kind of what it is. NXT is flat out known as your developmental. And then the 3 big brands for WWE is the Raw, SmackDown, and TNA. And yes, they can all have their own PLEs, pay-per-views. And the one big thing that I would say, let TNA just do what they're doing. And don't change anything up. have every show as its own different experiences, and you can almost completely win on this if you truly commit to it. And I think of all people, Triple H might actually allow that because we've been seeing different things. And then this will get me to my number one. You have in TNA history what was called Option C, and that allowed the X Division champion to cash in his championship and relinquish that for a World Heavyweight Championship opportunity. That would sometimes bring in the title, but also as a way to create a new star, do something different. What happens if we expand that, and instead of just doing it for the X Division, we created it all for all of the mid-card championships? That's right, an Option C PLE/pay-per-view where all the mid-card champions, the X Division, the International, the North American, the Intercontinental, United States champions all have the same possibility and opportunity. So if you are IC US, men or women, North American, men or women, you can then sacrifice or not sacrifice, but then you can cash in your championship for a guaranteed world title match at this show. And when you think about it, you got an X Division, International, the 2 North Americans, 2 Intercontinentals, and 2 US. That is more than enough matches for a show, people. What you can even do with NXT or with TNA is you can have a match between the International and the X Division champions, and the winner gets the opportunity. Because there's only one world title in TNA. There's only one in NXT for the men, one for the women. So that's why you only, the North American goes to the main title there, the Intercontinental in the US, same deal, because each brand has a mid-card and a major championship. I think that would be a fun concept. It'd be different. You have an opportunity to kind of see somebody else get an opportunity. Imagine a show where if we go with whoever the champions are right now, say it's Frankie Kazarian going up against Leon Slater, and the winner of that could face Trick Williams for the TNA title. You would then get Sol Ruka go up against JC Jane for the women's NXT title. You would have Ethan Page against Ricky Saints. We relive that one for the NXT championship. We could have Julia going up against Tiffany Stratton. We could see Becky Lynch going up against Stephanie Vaquer, or Dom Mysterio going up against Seth Rollins, or on SmackDown side, we could see Cody Rhodes defend, and I'm trying to remember who the U.S. champion is on men's side. Sami Zayn. Like, that could be a show. Who wouldn't want to see that show? So, yeah, the concept is just an Option C PLE, and we spread it open to all. So those are 10 things I change about you, WWE. Yes, I know I kind of used the loophole and I used TNA because of the working relationship, but that is. Let me know what your thoughts are about those ideas as we're closing off on episode 96 of the Chris Parrish podcast. Once again, I want to thank every single one of you for taking the time and joining us. And if by chance you want to help out the show, you can follow all of my socials on my link tree down below at Chris Parrish. One platform that you do not see that is going live, and that is the Spotify account. It will be uploaded later today. But please, if you have a chance, go follow the Chris Parrish podcast live on Spotify, or not live, but on Spotify, and please rate me 5 stars. Please, I beg you. It just helps the show, and I definitely want to grow the show and provide you more content, maybe more interviews. There could be some interviews coming out from my experience at TNA, whether that's with superstars, maybe people from other genres of entertainment. Things are being worked and discussed on, so I look forward to what is next on the Chris Parrish podcast. Now, every week, I do like to show you guys what I have coming up in the week after, and this is no different. So next week on the Chris Parrish podcast, you will be able to see episode 97, Invasive Thoughts. I may just get a little creative and book a future, or what I think the Invasion store or card is. We're going to talk a little bit more about the invasion that is between NXT and TNA. And in good fun, I'm going to make my own invasion card. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Also, I'm just going to say that next Sunday is a special day because it is my son's second birthday. So don't be surprised if he may or may not appear. But yeah, that has been episode 96 of the Chris Parrish podcast. 10 things I change about you. Once again, thank every single one of you for joining me tonight, and hopefully you enjoy your Sunday, as we will see you next week for episode 97. This has been the Chris Parrish podcast, and I will say this: be happy, be healthy, but more importantly, be yourself, because at the end of the day, you matter.
Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling.